Hey guys and gals, Mama Bear here with a daily dash of life. If you're new to my channel, I'd like to welcome you, and if you've been here before, welcome back. Today I will be walking you through the Almond Ridge pattern, and the Almond Ridge stitch is just a textured stitch pattern that is a series of what I call open and closed. This would be the open and then this would be the closed part. Open, closed. First, I will show you the pattern for those of you who just want to know the steps of the pattern, but if you stick around after that, I can share with you some tips that have helped me with the pattern. Once you know what to do and why you are doing it, you will understand how to tailor the pattern to your needs. So stick around for that. If there is a pattern you would like me to make a video for, please leave a comment in the comment box below. For this pattern, you will just need a few basic things. Your hook, of course, of your choice of size, some yarn. These stitch markers are optional. I prefer to use them, but you don't have to. And a tapestry needle. You should get yourself some of these cute, cheap little clips. They're hair clips, but when you're done using your yarn, if you're using a ball or even if you're using a skein of yarn, you could just clip these at the end to keep your yarn from unraveling. Before we get started, I would just like to let you know that the stitches you'll need to know are chain, of course, slip stitch, half double crochet, back loop only half double crochet, as well as back loop only slip stitch. Now we can get started. So for the foundation chain, you will be working in multiples of 8 plus 1. If you want your ends to look the same, then you will need to do multiples of 8 plus 4 plus 1, or multiples of 8 plus 5. I can get into detail on that after I show the pattern though. So I'm just going to create my slip knot. Do a multiple of 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. For each multiple of 8, you get an open and closed portion of the pattern. Depending on how far or how big you want your swatch to be will depend on how many chains you do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to place a stitch marker in every 8th chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again, you don't have to do this, but this is just a way for me if I'm making a big blanket to keep track of my stitches or my chains, so that I don't have to, if I lose count, I don't have to go all the way back to the beginning and start all over, which nobody likes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now I'm going to stitch. Now I'm just going to chain one more. For my foundation chain, I ended up doing 24 stitches plus 1 just for practice purposes. The plus 1 is going to be my chain 1, and then I will turn. Row 1 says to slip stitch in the second chain from the hook. Now I could start here, but I'm not going to do that. I prefer to start in that back bump. I'm going to do my slip stitch there, and that's what I'll be working in across. I like that this part is my edge when I'm done with my blanket or my swatch versus this being the edge. So let's just start with the pattern, and it says slip stitch in the second chain from the hook. So here I go into the second chain from the hook, which happens to be where my stitch marker is. I'm going to slip stitch into that one, and then I'm going to put a stitch marker in my work that I just did to show that this is my edge of the pattern, or of the the swatch that I'll be making, the last stitch or the first stitch of the row. Then you need to do 3 slip stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Do 4 half double crochet. Again, I'm going to continue to do this in the back bump. So here's my first half double crochet, second half double crochet, third half double crochet, and the fourth half double crochet. Now I'm going to continue by doing 4 slip stitches. 1, 2, 3, and my fourth one. Now repeat the pattern with 4 half double crochet. 1, 2, 3, and 4 half double crochet. 4 slip stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then 4 half double crochet. This is the last stitch of my row. Therefore, I'm going to place a stitch marker right here. Okay, so this is where I started. I started with closed. I have an open. I have closed. I have open. I have closed, and I have open. If you notice, I started off with a closed section and ended up with an open section. At the end of the video, I can show you, or when I'm done showing you the pattern, I can show you how to fix that if you want to begin and end the same. Now I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work. You should end up with 24 stitches going across for row 1. Now row 2, we ended with our half double crochet, so we're going to begin with a back loop only slip stitch. Place the stitch marker in the first stitch of the row. And do 3 more back loop only slip stitches. That's 2, 3, and 4. Now I'm going to do 4 back loop only half double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then do 4 back loop only slip stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4. From now on, we're just going to be using your back loops. So even if I say slip stitch, you know that I mean back loop slip stitch, back loop only slip stitch. So we did back loop only slip stitch right here. We're going to do back loop only half double crochets right here for our open wave. This is a closed wave, this is an open wave, closed wave. Well, they're half of a wave. Then we'll do back loop only half double crochet 4 times. That's 1. Something is happening. Oh, there we go. 2, 3, and 4. Now back loop only slip stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then these will be back loop only, half double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4. You have just completed row 2. Again, you should have 24 stitches. I'm going to pull my stitch marker out of row 1, chain 1, and turn for row 3. Because I started an open wave set, I'm going to do the second part of my open wave set. This is what I consider the bottom, and then we'll be doing the top. So I did a back loop only half double crochet for the first set. Now I'm going to do a back loop only half double crochet for the second set, or the second part of the set. So there's 1. Let me put my stitch marker. 2, back loop only half double crochet, back loop only half double crochet, number 3, and back loop only half double crochet, number 4. Now I'm going to back loop only slip stitch 4 times. There's 2, this is 3, and 4. Back loop only half double crochet 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Back loop only slip stitch, and just repeat the pattern until you're done with the row. I'm going to do the last 4 back loop only slip stitches of the row. 1, 2, 3, 4. Chain 1, pull my stitch marker out, turn my work, and I should have 24 stitches going across. Now I'm going to start a new set. Let me show you real quick. Here I have only for row 1, I have half of a set, and I'll explain that later. And then for rows 2 and 3, I have a full set. Now for rows 4 and 5, I will be starting a new set. Because I ended with a back loop only slip stitch, now I'm going to start with back loop only half double crochet. Place my stitch marker in the first stitch of the row, just to keep track. You don't have to, but I like to keep track of my work. And then back loop only half double crochet 3 more times. This is going to be 2, 3, and 4. Now I'm going to back loop only slip stitch 4 times, just like I did in row 2 and 3. It's the same pattern, just different set. And I'm working on the bottom half of the set. And then just repeat your pattern until you reach the end of the row. This is the last 4 of my row, so I'm going to do a back loop slip stitch 4 times. 2, 3, and 4. Chain 1, move my stitch marker out of the way, turn my work for row 5. Because I'm going to do the second part of my set and I ended with a back loop slip stitch, I'm going to start with a back loop only slip stitch. Put my stitch marker and continue on. Do 3 more slip stitches. And then just repeat the pattern to the end of the row. That's my first 4. Okay, I'm at the last 4 of my row. I'm ending in back loop only half double crochet. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. You should have 24 stitches at the end of your row. And we have just completed rows 1 through 5. Every time I start a new project, I always make a practice swatch. Sometimes I do it several times. I work on it until I not only remember the pattern and feel comfortable with it, but I also work out all of the kinks and get the mistakes out of my system. I know a lot of you already do that, but those of you who don't, I highly recommend that you do that. Now, on to the tips portion of the video. Not only do I like the look of this being my edge when I'm done with my swatcher blanket, but it also makes things more uniform because the last row of your pattern, you're going to end up with this as your edge. And then when you go back and do your sides, when you do your slip stitch across your sides, then this is the way it's going to look. If you happen to know the size square or swatch you're going to be making, go ahead and leave out as much of a tail as you can so that when you're done, you can just slip stitch across the edge and use what you already have out instead of having to use another piece of yarn. Once you know the pattern, once you understand the pattern, it's easy to start and finish exactly the way you want it to. Here's row 1 right here. Rows 2 and 3, 2 and 3, 2 is below the blue line and 3 is above the blue line. Rows 2 and 3 create what I call a set, and rows 4 and 5 create another set. The rows consist of open and closed waves of the pattern. Here's what I consider the open part, and here's what I consider the closed part. Rows 2 and 4 create the bottom part of the set. So here's row 2, here's row 4, and they create the bottom part of the set. As you see, the waves scoop under on rows 2 and on row 4. Rows 3 and 5, what I call the top part of the set. Now if you see, the waves create this top wave part. This is the top of the set. Row 1 is the top part of the set so that the bottom edge can run in a straight line. This is the top half of the set that I'm calling your open and closed waves. The top of a set. Then here you have a full set of your open and closed waves, and here you have a second full set of your open and closed waves. Now to finish off your blanket, your swatch, whatever you're working on, you will just do the bottom half of the set of your open and closed waves. And that will give you a flush line going this way. So let me show you on my swatch. Here I have row 1. See how that doesn't create a bunch of bumps? And then I have my waves continuing on this way. Now here is the top of my swatch. Again, I don't have a bunch of bumps. That's because I only did the bottom part of the set. Had I done both parts of the set, I would have ended up with something like this, where the bumps are showing. The same thing would have happened if I would have started with a full set. So here I have what I'm calling Demo 1. To begin and end with the closed sections, chain 21, which is a multiple of 8 plus 5. My row 1 is going to begin with 4 half double crochet, slip stitch, 4 slip stitch, and then repeat 4 half double crochet, 4 slip stitch, and then 4 half double crochet. That is for my row 1. Then I'm going to turn my work and start my row 2. For rows 2 and 3, I'm going to have 4 back loop only slip stitches, then I'll do 4 back loop only half double crochet, and then repeat that across. Slip stitches, back double crochet, slip stitches. Then I will chain 1 and turn my work. And I will begin the same way I began over here for row 2. Row 2 and row 3 are going to begin the same. So after I chain 1 and turn my work, I'm going to do my 4 back loop only slip stitches, 4 back loop only half double crochet, 4 back loop only slip stitches, 4 back loop only half double crochet, and end with my 4 back loop only slip stitches. For rows 4 and 5, I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work and begin with 4 back loop only half double crochet. Move on to 4 back loop only slip stitches, 4 back loop only half double crochet, 4 back loop only slip stitches, and end with 4 back loop only half double crochet. To continue on with this pattern, since this is row 4, to do row 5, I'm going to repeat doing things the way I started. So if I started row 4 with my back loop only half double crochet and ended with my 4 back loop only half double crochet, then I'm going to begin with my 4 back loop only half double crochet, move on to my slip stitches, half double crochet, slip stitches, half double crochet. You will end in your 4 back loop only half double crochet. And that is if you want to begin and end with the back loop only slip stitches. See how these match? Anytime you want them to match, you're going to have to do the multiples of 8 plus 5. That will give you multiples of 8. So closed and open right here is 8. Closed and open is 8. The plus 5 is going to give you the additional 4 plus the chain 1 to turn your work. For my demo 2, I have multiples of 8 plus 5. So I did a chain 21, and to start and end with the open sections, row 1 begins with 4 back loop only slip stitches, 4 back loop only half double crochets, then you move on to 4 back loop only slip stitches, then 4 back loop only half double crochet, and end with 4 back loop only slip stitches. That's if you want your pattern to begin and end with the open part of your wave on either side. Demo 1 is to begin and end with your back loop only slip stitches on the edges, and this is if you want the open part of the wave at the edges, closed part of the wave at the edges. You decide how you want it. For my demo 3, You're going to do multiples of 8 plus 1, which gives me a chain of 16. And to start with the closed section and end with the open section. This is used when you don't care how it starts and stops, but you are just worried about the width, which I was worried about the width with one of my other projects. I needed 10 inches exactly, so I wasn't worried about how it started and how it stopped, just as long as I got my 10 inches. So for row 1, you're going to start with your slip stitches. You're going to move on to your 4 half double crochet, slip stitches, 4 half double crochet again. You're going to chain 1 and you're going to turn your work. So you're going to be heading back this way. So for row 2, you're going to do 4 back loop only slip stitches, 4 half double crochet, 4 back loop only slip stitches, and your 4 half double crochet. So then you're going to chain 1, turn your work. You're going to end up doing the 4 back loop only half double crochet, 4 back loop only slip stitches, 4 back loop only half double crochet, and 4 back loop only slip stitches. You just did row 2 and 3, which gave you a full set. So now you're going to start working on 4 and 5. To start row 4, you're going to chain 1, turn your work, and start off with 4 back loop only half double crochet, move on to your slip stitches, back loop only half double crochet, and move on to your slip stitches, and continue with the pattern. I hope this helped you figure out how you wanted to start and stop and how to do it. This, I just was tinkering around. This is if I wanted to start with a half double crochet. I finished off with half of a wave over here just to show you that if you know what to do and how to do it, you can do it. These are going to be your primary ways to do the blanket. You're either going to start and stop with the slip stitches at the end, start and stop with the open waves at the end, or you're not going to care and you're going to only be worried about the width. Remember to check your work before starting each new row to make sure you are on track with the pattern. In the beginning, I kept making the mistake of switching up the pattern anytime I was working on the wrong side. So sometimes this portion can look the same whether you have the set or not. So when I was working on the wrong side, I kept making the mistake of starting a new set on accident. So find a way to keep track of the pattern. Find your own personal way of doing that works for you. I hope you learned something new today that you didn't know yesterday. Thanks for coming by. Toodles. Hey guys and gals, I have some new and exciting news. Little Bear has her own channel on YouTube now. That's Sew CoCo. I'll leave the link in the description box below, so if any of you have any little ones that want to learn how to sew, that's the channel to go to. Thanks for watching.
Testing, testing. Look at this. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3.